This happened yesterday. Tuesdays and Thursdays are my long days at school, and I decided to get Taco Bell for dinner. It's fairly close to home, plus I'm lazy. The Taco Bell near me is slow and often understaffed, but I usually don't mind. The line wasn't as long when I pulled up to it, but it was slow. I sat in the drive-thru for about 15 minutes before I could order. I order and pull up a few feet, but I can't pull up anymore. The guy behind me motions me to move forward more, so I shake my head and point to the car ahead of me. He yells that I can pull up more, and I tell him that I won't pull up right against their car. He then gets out of his car. He's yelling that I'm dumb as he reaches for my front bumper. He yells, 1, 2, fucking 3 feet you have to pull ahead. Move your fucking car. I tell him no, that I'm not going to pull my car butt up against theirs. And he calls me some slur. He storms back into his car, and he yells, move your car or I'll move it for you. I don't care about my piece of shit crap car, and taps my fucking bumper. I'm livid, scared, and low-key having a panic attack at this point. I yell, did you just tap my fucking bumper? If you tap my fucking bumper, I'm calling the police and my insurance. But this was a lie. My phone was dead in my bag. I'm panicking, and I was high-key scared he had a knife or a gun. I don't even know why I even added that I'd call my insurance. A worker, maybe a manager, comes out, walks over to my car, and looks how much space I have, and tells the guy that I can't pull forward anymore. He starts going off on her and me. He yells that he doesn't want their fucking food anymore and screams at the people behind him to move. Everyone reverses out of the drive-thru so this jackass can pull out. He does so while yelling stuff that I can't hear and flipping me off. The worker/manager goes back inside. I sat in the drive-thru for about 10 minutes waiting for the line to move while I was crying and shaking. When I got to the window worker told me that they were sorry and that he wouldn't be allowed back. She asked me if I'm okay, and I fought back to hold more tears. It was awkward. I paid for my food and they gave me free cinnamon twists, and drove home still shaking. Apparently bad things happen when I want fast food. This all happened when I was about 16 in high school and working my very first part-time job at a fast food restaurant located right off the highway, and wasn't uncommon to get a lot of crazy customers. I arrived at work one day and was surprised to see that my schedule for the week had changed, giving me a graveyard shift on a Friday night. The thought of being at this place overnight gave me the creeps and thought my manager was insane for making the youngest employee take a night shift, but it wasn't a school night, and I didn't want to seem like a baby, so I accepted the shift. When the night came, it was just me and another coworker who was a larger man and very friendly, so I felt more safe with him there. Before leaving, my manager gave me the rundown on how the night was supposed to go. At 11 p.m., I was to lock the doors, and we would only be taking drive-thru orders. But on this particular night, just my luck, one of the main doors had been broken and wouldn't lock properly. If anyone comes in, just tell them they can't be in the lobby and to order through the drive-thru. After these words of wisdom, my manager went home to the comfort of his bed and I started my long night. Being slightly paranoid and not used to the new shift, every noise I heard from outside made me jump. A few times, some customers came in through the unlocked door but quickly and politely left after being asked to use the drive-thru. When it reached about 1 in the morning, I was in the back of the store organizing boxes when I heard the slam of the heavy door close. I ran to the front to tell whoever it was to get out, but I saw no one. I walked into the lobby and looked around but didn't see anyone there. "Did you hear someone come in?" I asked my coworker, as he also came to investigate. "Maybe they left, but I'll check the bathroom to be safe," he said as he opened the men's bathroom and then quickly came back, but nope, no one here. "You should check the girls' bathroom," he advised. I agreed and opened the door to the women's bathroom. At first I didn't see anything, so I called out, "Anyone in here?" No response. To double check, I took a few steps into the bathroom. At this time, I was able to see some feet behind a stall. The stall door was wide open, and as I got closer, I was able to see inside. My stomach immediately sank. I caught eyes with a woman with the long tangled brown hair, crouched next to the toilet with a needle in her arm. As she jumped up out of the surprise and ripped the needle out of her arm, squirting blood all over the floor. She raised the needle over her head and started to move towards me. I screamed and ran as fast as I could out of the bathroom and past my coworker. I whipped around just in time to see her run out of the door. My heart was racing and I was scared to death and ended up going home right after. I quit the next day, so lady shooting up in the bathroom at 1 in the morning. Let's not meet again. I was 20 years old at the time and I was working at a Chinese food place in the mall. I don't know if any of you have ever wondered, but all the restaurants at a mall's food court are connected by a long hallway behind them that only the employees are allowed access to. Due to only workers going through there, and for it being hidden, you can imagine that the place is pretty solitary. This is important because this is where the events took place. Now, on to the story. There was this cook in the restaurant who, for anonymity's sake, I'll refer to as Greg. Greg was Chinese and didn't speak Spanish, my native language, nor English, only Mandarin. He only understood certain words in Spanish like rice, noodles, chicken, and other food items that he cooked so that when we yelled them into the kitchen, he knew what to bring out. Also, I don't know how old he was, but he was easily over 60. So Greg, despite the language barrier, was a very bubbly person. Ever since I started working there, I noticed how he always made silly noises when he came up front to deliver his food, and all the other girls would laugh. He generally seemed very sweet and friendly, and I never heard any of the girls complain about him at all. For all I could tell, he was just friendly with everyone and harmless. With time, as I stopped being the new girl, Greg would become comfortable around me too and make beep beep noises when he came to the front to deliver food, as his way of asking me to step out of the way for him. It was actually kind of hilariously cute, and all my other coworkers, like I said, found him pretty harmless, so I began to feel comfortable around him too. A couple of months into the job, I was already familiar with everyone in the staff, Greg included. So I would always wave hello or goodbye to him, and he'd give me a smile and wave back. I never thought anything weird of our interactions because they were the same with everyone else he interacted with. Until one day. I was getting back to my shift after my break. I pushed through the employee door to enter the long hallway I mentioned earlier. You could hear noises from the other workers inside their respective restaurants, but no one was really outside in the hall. As I was walking towards the restaurant I worked at, I saw that Greg was just then getting out for his break. He immediately smiled and said my name in the thick accent he always said it with, and I smiled back at him. I didn't feel at all threatened because, like I've probably mentioned a million times by now, he had never given me a reason to feel threatened. He's still smiling at me, standing in front of the entrance to my job, so I couldn't really just walk past him. Just as I was nearing him, he extends his arm, basically asking me for a hug. I had seen him hug other girls before, so again, I thought nothing of it and went in for the hug. Call me naive. At first it was all fine and dandy, but my shift was about to start, so I had to go. He had been hugging me for a bit too long as well, so not only was I getting antsy, I was also getting uncomfortable. I broke the hug and tried to push him back gently, signaling to him that I needed to go. And this is when I began to panic. You see, when I tried to push him away, he actually held me tighter and wouldn't let go. I was confused, so I tried to push against him again, this time a bit more obviously. But he held on even more, pressing me against him. This is when I realized my naivety caused me to make a huge mistake. I turned my head to glare at him, but the moment I did, he leaned down as if expecting me to look and tried to kiss me. Okay, now, I was really freaking out because this was the first time someone tried to come at me so aggressively and he didn't speak any of the languages I spoke to him, so I didn't know how to tell him to let go, other than with actions. And before you yell at me for not screaming, at the time I was so shocked that I didn't even think of it. I kind of shut down in that department and instead tried to figure out a way to make him let it go. All this time, as I'm thinking what the fuck to do, he's still trying to kiss me, keeping me in place no matter how much I struggle, and actively following my head with his lips to try to plant one on me. It didn't matter if we didn't speak the same language. I think it was obvious that I wasn't comfortable. So I can't say he didn't know what he was doing. It was clear that he wasn't going to let me go until I kissed him. So I did what I first thought of. I stopped moving my head and somehow managed to gather enough courage to look him right in the eye. I saw him lean in again for my lips, and I pretended I was going to let him kiss me. And then, literally at the last second, I turned my head to the side and tried to make him kiss my cheek instead. It sort of worked. It wasn't fast enough, for I still felt like my lips pecked the corner of his mouth. I felt disgusted, but at least it wasn't as what he wanted. Just as I hoped, as soon as he planted one on me, he broke the hug, holding me at my arm's length and giving me this huge grin. He then patted my shoulder before finally letting me go and walking away. I stood there shaken, not really knowing what to do. Eventually I went back to work, but my coworkers asked me if I was okay since apparently I was pale as paper and my arms couldn't stop shaking. I just shrugged them off. I never reported this to my boss, nor did I say anything to my coworkers, partly because I thought the chef was family and they fired me rather than him, but mostly because I was stupid. However, I did avoid him at all costs for the remaining time I worked there and never treated him the same. I also never went alone to the kitchen, nor entered the hallway until it was literally a minute for me to clock in. Eventually I quit and never returned to that place. I heard he also quit not long after I had. Well, whatever the case. Good riddance.